We can do it outside.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's May 23rd, 2022 and it's 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mr. Okenauer.
Here.
Mrs. Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Lawrence. Here. Mr. Ryba.
Here.
And Ms. Miller.
Here.
Our president accounted for, you have a quorum.
Right, we have an item on the agenda. It's the commission reviewed final major subdivision plat. Subdivision plan, EMH&T on behalf of the applicant. Pulte Homes has submitted final platting for section 1 of Price Pond subdivision. The applicant has requested approval of a final plat for section 1 of the Price Pond subdivision under PRD zoning approved in a preliminary development plan by the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 1st, 2020, and Council on July 15th of 2020. The preliminary plat was approved by the Commission on 5/24/21. The development is located along Golf Course Road near the intersection with Cheshire Road. And we don't have anyone from the applicant here this evening. We did receive a packet of information and we have the application in front of us. With that said, I think we'll go right into the staff report.
I can start off. Thank you, Mayor. Steve, did you want to start? Go ahead. Okay. Basically, there's some more time needed to finish the review on the final plat. We wanted to do a contingent approval. So we prepared a memo to with the recommended contingencies for this plat. And I can read through those contingencies. First contingency would be administrative engineering and legal approval of the final plat by the city of Sunbury. Second contingent approval would be the administrative engineering and fire department approval prior to any building permits being issued, including any model homes. The third contingency is, and as part of the zoning approval, one of the conditions was the developer was to provide additional right-of-way near the Golf Course Road, Cheshire Road intersection. So this is part of that. If you look at Exhibit 1, kind of indicates, I've been in discussion with the Delaware County Engineer's Office, and they had sent these two sketches, Exhibits 1 and 2, indicating some additional right-of-way is going to be required at Golf Course in Cheshire. So we want to get that right-of-way incorporated onto the final plat. So that's basically what Condition 3 says. Fourth contingency is just the acquisition of the right-of-way and easements needed to potentially, if you look at Exhibit 2, as you kind of turn it landscape and you look up with north facing to the top of the page, the current Millstone Drive is here, which is where the current cut is and the construction's occurring. The county's proposing a roundabout at that intersection. So we want to secure some right-of-way easement for a potential relocation of Millstone Drive, just in the event that that does happen in the future. Most of that northwest area of the development is all easement, power line easement. There's water line easements, sanitary sewer easements. There's nothing really being built up in that area, so it shouldn't be an issue. So that's the fourth contingency to work out is the geometrics on that and that associated right-of-way and or easement. So in a snapshot, those are the four recommended contingencies for your consideration.
Okay. Are there there any other feedback on the overall final plat that you have or would like to provide just in general?
We are going to, we're about, I would say 90%. Most of I've had a surveyor from our office reviewing all the detail on that. Nothing substantial so far, just some monumentation requirements, name of the surveyor on the cover sheet, some more or less cosmetic type things, nothing substantial. Everything does look in conformance with the initial approval in the zoning. There are a few things in regards to that trail location and some other things that we're going to have comments on. But in general, we're not seeing any issues with section 1 on the final plat. It does vary when you look at the original preliminary plat, phase 1, it's called phasing on there. The phase 1 is different than section 1. So section 1 kind of carries through west to east through the entire development. So when you get a chance, you can see that, but we'll go through that with a fine-tooth comb and make any plat type comments as well.
Okay.
And that's part of the engineering contingency on the approval.
When they're listing phase 1, phase 2, is that the order of their operations and build out?
Well, the final plat is just section 1. So section 1 is what would be platted, and anything within that section that currently lines up with the construction documents. So they're going to build and plat the entire section 1. And then once that's done, they will be able to sell and build all those lots within section 1.
What does it mean when they say phase 1 and it's on like the northwest portion of the property?
Yeah, their phasing lines on the preliminary plat are just different than these sections. And they didn't really indicate, another final plat with the sections. But if you look at the final plat, I don't know if Steve can put it up on the screen or not, but kind of carries through the entire development. And it's just basically Millstone Drive all the way through to the Sunbury Mills development. So that's what they've come in with on final plat, and they're calling it section 1. So they're really just building a through street with the associated lots.
Okay. Is this the trigger for which, I guess, allows the developer to dedicate the parkland to Sunbury? Do you know? We had a dedication of parkland. I think it's approximately 20 acres. I thought it was that once the preliminary plat was approved, there was a very short turnaround time, like 15 days or something.
I will have to check that, Mayor. That's another piece. We're reviewing the development agreement and the development text as well to see if there's any conditions as part of that.
Okay.
And I can look into that as well.
Okay, great. Materially, everything looks the same to me. Any feedback from the commission?
My only question was going to be, is there any major changes? That doesn't sound like there is.
Steve, any other feedback?
No, other than just timing wise, I think Pulte's just about done with Sunbury Meadows, and they want to get a model home up so they can move on to their next subdivision in Sunbury. But
What do they have to do with road improvements before the models are open? Nothing?
they need to have at least a drivable access point for fire and EMS. And that's why we put the contingency in there that, they can't have an occupancy permit for the model home until such time as fire and EMS sign off that they've got a sufficiently drivable surface. Right now, it is gravel.
What about golf course road?
Are you talking about the condition of golf course roads? or
Doesn't it have to be improved?
Their access? Yeah, that's part of the development agreement, and we're working on the improvements to golf course road now, but they're not directly tied to each other.
I think they're looking to have those done by end of year.
So will that probably be before there's any occupancy in the development?
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I was really.
I would say so. Even just getting a model home up, it's going to take them a couple months, so.
The current thinking, in conversation with the county, is to have the golf course reconstructed this summer. So to try to complete that before school starts is the anticipated date, but that's going to be dependent upon some final approvals and the agreement here. So they're ready to go and want to get that built. But as part of that improvement, they'll be required to maintain emergency vehicle access. So they'll have to maintain that on Golf Course Road. And then we'll make sure, as Steve said, that there's a drivable surface into the development if we're going to allow the model home to be constructed. So just a little flexibility. Pulte Homes has been a good partner over the years, so we try to use some common sense and allow things to step forward, but make sure everything's safe and proper as well.
Any other comments? All right. Anybody like to make a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve with the submitted engineering contingencies.
Okay. Mr. Ryba made a motion for approval with the 4 contingencies.
I'll second.
Yeah, second by Deborah Miller. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Ryba,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
and Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Guys,
All right.
with contingencies, it is passed.
All right. Thank you. We are on to the visitor section. Mrs. Smith? Okay. Mrs. Smith's not going to talk tonight. Motion for approval of the minutes. I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
A second by Deborah Miller. Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Ryba,
Abstain.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
and Mayor St. John,
Yes.
and Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes.
All right.
5 ayes, 1 abstention.
All right, we're on the zoning report. Mr. Piles, thank you for preparing this. Would you like to review any of the highlights?
Just real briefly, I will let you know that got a couple violation letters that I've sent, and they're specific to a Halloween decoration that continues to be displayed, rather large Halloween decoration. So that time has passed, and so they've gotten a date certain time to get it down and get it out of sight. Also on that lot is a structure that's in front of the building setback line, or it's in the building setback line. So it needs to be, it's portable, so it just needs to be retired until the next Halloween season. And then I have a gentleman that's constructed a permanent canvas car tent that's in the front yard setback. And so he's been notified that that needs to go away. And then one other violation notice, there is a house on 100 North Street, I believe is the address. It's a old historical home, beautiful home in dire need of repair. A corporation bought it. They started work on it and they've ended work on it, and it's not being mowed. There's debris from the cleanup in the front yard. It's not habitable. So they got a lengthy letter with some details on dates that they need to start moving and either decide they're going to renovate that home and save it, or realize that it's not going to be a salvageable home. But it's of concern to the neighbors, and that makes it my concern.
You said a corporation owns it?
17 Estates LLC. They're actually headquartered in Virginia. They do have an Ohio corporation, corporate license registration in a couple other states. So I think, their specialty is buying homes, fixing them up. But this one, I think they may have gotten a real kind of surprise when they saw the conditions and the work that's going to have to be done on it. I want to work with them to save the home. It's historic. It can be a beautiful house again, but it's going to take some time and effort to get it there. And the neighbors deserve at least to have something that's mowed, clean, and not creating nuisance. So
Sure.
that's what I'm working on, making sure it's secured. And
Do we do the, if they don't mow it, we mow it, farm it out, and then do we put it on their tax bill? Is that what we do? Okay. Right.
So that's probably what the mowing will be. That's potentially what it looks like it's duct work and some metal work that they took out of it, sitting in the front yard, so if I have to, I will hire somebody to come in and get that removed, and that'll go on their property taxes. And then if we get to the more difficult things, then it's a minor misdemeanor, and it's a daily minor misdemeanor if we can make contact with them and give them a ticket every day. But hopefully they will, once they're in receipt of the letter, which should be arriving today, maybe tomorrow or the next day, they'll respond, and we'll get a better. I'd left a message. I thought I'd identified who the person was based upon the corporate records and somebody that was listed in that area as a realtor, and didn't hear back. But it may have been just a coincidence. The person's in realty and has the same first and last name as the person that's on the corporate, officer list. But we shall see. And then it's been busy. We've been issuing a lot of building permits, and we're almost ready to exceed last year. And not 2 years ago, I think we're right there in terms of the total builds. So things have definitely bounced back. Rolling Hills has a number of building applications in the queue, about 10 of them in total. So as those come through, Brad and I were out there looking at the conditions of the subdivision and what they've done to fix some of the, observations that he and the engineer had regarding their stormwater. I think, and again, that's going to be one I'm going to run by the fire department, because their access road has been in, but then it roughs in from going around to connect into the other subdivision. And I have a hunch that the fire department's going to want to have 2 access points, understandably. So that'll be the next kind of dragging the sleigh with them, is at least get your gravel base in, so there's 2 access ways into the neighborhood as they build out the houses, and certainly not an occupancy permit until, there's pavement throughout those, for both sides, so.
Has Ryan Homes applied for a model home permit?
They did a golf course, and they're the ones building the one on golf course.
Okay, so that's not a Rockford model home, that's
I
right,
believe it's Orion.
right,
I
okay.
think so. I'll check and get back to you on that, but
So they're doing a split development.
Yeah.
I didn't know who owned what lots. If we cared, I guess I'm thinking more from an accountability standpoint. If we have those runoff issues or debris from different sites, do we know who to call?
yeah, right now we're calling the master developer of the whole
Okay.
subdivision still. And, letting them know that things aren't gonna move forward until some of those items were addressed. Looks like they've rebuilt, there was some drainage issues. It looks like they've rebuilt the head walls. They've reseeded around the ponds. I don't think that they've changed the volume in there. And I think they're doing a study for you to show if they've still got the storage capacity that they need, so. Other than that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions on the zoning report? Right. Looks like we're in line with 2017 or 2018 on the building permits.
Yes.
All right. Discussion, new business. Mr. Gokenhour,
Nothing.
Mrs. Miller?
I was wondering, do you have a map of where all the subdivisions are and their names?
Yeah, we could overlay, we've got a zoning map, but it doesn't overlay the names, but that would be easy enough to do. Can you do that? Okay.
It'd just be helpful for me because some of these names I'm not familiar with where they are in the city and everything.
Me too, yeah. I mean, I know what they are, but the names are not familiar to me.
Yeah.
We used to have a big map here on the wall, and that was real helpful.
Oh, we did.
I don't know if we could go
Yeah,
back to
that's
that
Yeah.
after.
where I used to work. There was a whole wall of maps of where the subdivisions were and the lines and everything, but it's just something small that I could refer to would be great.
Good idea. Thanks for raising your hand. New business?
Nothing tonight, sir.
New business.
Nope, nothing for me.
All right. I just want to add two things. One is more of an update. You may have noticed we aren't seeing variance requests. Those are going to the Board of Zoning Appeals now, and they've had, I think, 3 meetings so far. 2 were kind of getting up to speed meetings, and they've actually heard some issues, at least one, recently. So if you've noticed, our agendas are a little bit shorter. That's one of the reasons. I've intentionally not gone to those meetings, just to give them a little bit of space and learn on their own, and that's probably a good thing. So wish them well.
Question on BZA is, and I'm trying to remember from the charter, is if it goes to BZA, is BZA the final decision, like a township? And I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah,
So it doesn't have to go back to council, whatever
No,
BZA decides.
the appeal from the BZA is directly to the common police court. So it does not come to this body or to the council or anyone else.
When are those meetings, Joe?
They have
Third Monday, 5:30, I think.
5:30, subject to if there's
Business, yeah. And I think they'll have business again in June.
And they're live streamed like all of our other meetings, so I was able to watch it over the live stream.
Thanks.
The other thing I wanted to mention is council just submitted an RFP. An RFP is a request for proposals for district level planning services. So think of like a strategic plan or a master plan is basically like a comprehensive view of the city. And I apologize if you're very familiar with this, but I wanted to talk about district level planning. District level planning is probably a one layer down, zoomed in, and the boundary is primarily kind of where Sunbury Parkway and 36, 37 are going to be. So think like Subway, and then out in that corridor out towards the interchange. And council felt like it was very important to take a proactive stance on the planning aspect, especially since we have a decentralized group of developers, and try to guide the development as opposed to the development community telling us what we want, and then we have to go through sometimes a tumultuous process. So it's not just council that's going to be engaged here. There's going to be a public component to it. But I wanted this board, being the Planning and Zoning Commission, to be a part of that as well, especially on the feedback piece. So what do we really want there? And sometimes planning doesn't always match up with code. So, we may want this, but it may not be in our code, but it can work both ways. We can say, here's our code and work towards that, or work towards what we want and work backwards towards our code. So.
What is it going to encompass, like roads, just the development for commercial?
Yeah, land use, utilities. The land use also, so we had some exterior boundaries that we're not asking to be planned, but to consider in the planning. So think like even up into North Star and south down into like Dustin Road over to 3Bs and a K, broader geographic areas. We just want it to flow well, I guess it's probably the best way. And then there's a big component on aesthetic standards. So signage, branding, character, uniformity, trails, connectivity, things like that.
What was the deadline that we put on the RFP?
I think it's typically 30 days. Yeah, so
Thank you.
a few weeks away. Hopefully we'll get some proposals back. All right, that's all I had for new business. Next meeting, June 27th. Same time, same place. And
Move to adjourn.
got a motion by Mr. Ryba. Second by John Lawrence. Discussion? Roll call.
Let's see, where is it? Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Ryba,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Okenauer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Guys.
Right.